And it's all about that horrible word algorithm that changes on an hourly basis. Terrible podcast guest, by the way.
Not me.
No, both of us.
I've got Mark Blinston outside the window shaking his head at me, that's why.
People in marketing have to have a bit of an arrogance.
This episode is sponsored by BM Catalyst, the UK and Europe's leading manufacturer of catalytic converters, DPFs and front pipes. You can find out more at bmcats.com.
Welcome back to Garage Talk and Wrap the podcast with me, Vicky.
And me, Ben. In this episode, we're joined by Tom Vallé and Joe O'Neill from BM Catalyst about marketing for an aftermarket manufacturer. A subject close to our heart, Victoria.
We do dabble in a bit of marketing.
Yes, people may have noticed, and media. What for me was interesting, though, was listening to them about, from a manufacturer's point of view, and the amount of different avenues they have to look at and evaluate.
Yeah, and all the big shows that they do too. I mean, they are some costly experiments if you get them wrong, aren't they? But they talked about Automechanica last year where they had that spin the wheel, which Joe was in charge of. It was his idea, which was really cheap but really paid off. It's the kind of simple ideas that you can come up with that really have the best results sometimes, isn't it?
It is. And also I think a lot of press, websites, etc., they think all the marketing budget's going into advertising. But actually a marketing budget is for marketing. So whatever it is that markets that company, has to come out of that budget. And I think that's what I found fascinating was the way we've got this amount for advertising, this amount for shows, this amount, like you say, for props, etc. It's not an easy department to run, is it?
No, and we were thinking that they would kind of have a very structured plan for the year, but because so much changes, they have to be pretty fluid with it.
But I think that's enough of us talking about it. Let's listen to Tom and Joe.
Now, I have been waiting for this podcast for ages. We have done a lot in the automotive market, but not much in the creative and marketing part of the industry. Today, I welcome Joe O'Neill.
Hello.
And if he bangs his fingers again, he'll be off.
Good start.
And Tom Vallé. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello, how are you doing? Oh,
Yeah,
I like that. That's good.
We didn't do that for Mark when we had the Mark podcast. Marketing in this industry is not the easiest thing, is it, gents?
Depends who you ask, I think. I would say no, it's not. But Tom seems to smash it on a daily basis.
Oh, he's laying the land early there.
Yeah,
Pay rise, Joe, yeah?
Yeah, of course. It is pay review season, yeah.
The pressure's on because we've got to make this really entertaining and jolly, haven't we, really, in marketing? But let's ask a serious question. Tom, as you're the expert, how did you get into marketing?
I don't know about being an expert. I don't know if there is an expert in marketing just on that point, because I think there's so many different avenues that you can be a sort of a specialist in that it's quite difficult to be like a jack of all trades, if you like, because marketing doesn't really allow for you to be average, because you will get exposed, if you like. If your content's not good enough, people will see it. You know, if your PR is not good enough, people will see it. So I think there's a lot of things in marketing. I think obviously the attention to detail is the things that you've almost got to be the expert at. But I think for me, marketing is one of them things that I've not fallen into, but I sort of started out as like a videographer, photographer. So yeah. my degree is film production. So you can talk to me about films all day. So the content creation sort of side of it, and then that quickly gets swept into the marketing umbrella. And the more I started to work in the jobs that I have worked, the more you look at sort of analytics and the more you start understanding what makes people tick and how that can convert ultimately to sales, because obviously marketing and sales just go hand in hand. So yeah, you start to identify different points of marketing that are also important. I've got a background of sort of web development and SEO as well, which lends itself really well to what we do, particularly from like a B2B perspective. We want to make sure that our website is always sort of ticking along as best it can and optimizing that. So in the sort of intense market, if you like, of search engines and things like that, we want to make sure that we're, topping them scales and getting the attention that we need. And I've always pretty much been in the automotive sector. So I'm an absolute car nerd. So it is great for me to be, within the industry using my skills, but also being able to go, I like cars and I like being around cars. I like being around people that talk about cars. So that's where we are now.
Do you think if you were educated in marketing and qualified, it'd be totally different and perhaps not? What I find is that education can sometimes educate creativity out of you.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of time theory is difficult to implement into marketing. I think exposure to marketing is one of the main things. You can be educated, you can understand the psychology behind it, which is beneficial, but 9 times out of 10, it's testing and it's A/B testing different ads and things like that, and understanding what makes people tick during that time. There's not one set rule that will always work, because everything's changing, and we'll definitely get onto it later about AI and things like that. It's understanding what that now brings and how much of a difference that makes.
I mean, Joe, I'm guessing you never did a TikTok course at college or anything.
No, I didn't.
Tell us how you got into marketing.
So pretty much the complete opposite to what Tom's just said, to be honest. I went to university, did a master's in sports journalism. It was very the old school PR writing, that kind of thing. Always loved that area of it. No idea on the digital side of stuff, and like you say, SEO and websites and that kind of thing, or photography or videography, any of that. Had a few roles within it, and then quickly realised that there's actually a massive link between your journalism and your marketing, and it overlaps all the time, and the crossover. And I started to think, actually, I quite enjoy doing all of it, the variety of things, whether that be as simple as social media posts now and then, or just pushing what you were doing in the journalism side of things. And then, I fell into it and love it.
Isn't it interesting, though? And Vic is at the side of me here. All 4 of us around this table have not been educated in content creation or being creative. We've been educated in other areas of business. I just find it fascinating. And I also think of entrepreneurs as well, such as Peter Jones, Alan Sugar, never had the educations. It does make me think, where would you look for the ideal person to be in marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
What about you, Tom? Do you know?
I think that people in marketing, I'm going to say this sort of notion, it might backfire. I think people in marketing have to have a bit of an arrogance. And I think the same notion that, it's a silly reference, but like chefs have to have an arrogance. They have to believe in what they're doing. They have to believe in their source, if you like. So I think people in marketing have to have that bit of sort of self-belief, that arrogance that means, I'm willing to try this. I'm willing to sort of die on that hill if that doesn't work, and I'll fight that battle to show you that it will work. And I think that, bringing it back to BM, I think BM gives us that responsibility to try them things. If they don't work, they don't work. But if they do work, we know what we're doing, sort of thing, and people will give us a praise for that. So I think that people that are good in marketing are them ones that are willing to take a bit of a risk and willing to go out there a little bit. You talk about content creation, I think the best content creators are the ones that aren't scared of being embarrassed by the stuff that they put online. And we like we said, we saw that TikTok of you earlier. That's now getting tens of thousands of hits or whatever it's on. And I think that's because you're willing to put yourself out there and go, this doesn't directly sell what I wanted to sell, or sell the brand that I'm working for, or sell the product, but it sells me as like a personality. And I think marketing people have to have that arrogant personality a little bit to be able to push that notion a little bit more.
How does it work? Do you write the story and then pass it to Tom to create the content around, or does Tom create the content and then you write the story?
Yeah, so I think it always starts with an idea between the both of us first, to be honest. And at that point, we kind of look at where we are within the story, within the idea. Sometimes it flips around. I mean, I will always do the writing part, but the content creation around it can be either of us, really. It depends where we're going with it and who we want to see it. That can change it quite a lot.
What's the hardest part about writing an article?
Do you know what? All of it. But it's an enjoying thing. It's an enjoyment thing. You can sit there and you can have no idea of what to start writing, how to write it, what to write about, even sometimes. I mean, I'm relatively new to the industry, so writing about the automotive aftermarket was quite daunting. It's getting easier, but it is still daunting. So all of it, it's the process. And then I think, as well, as someone who's starting in this industry, it's when you pass it on to someone at perhaps a higher level and they come back with the feedback. That can be when you think, oh, have I written that wrong? Have I done this wrong? But really, you start to learn it's all constructive. At that point, it improves it. You've always got a certain idea of where you want to go with something. And then at that point, that's when you start to think, can I go down this avenue? Can I go down this channel with what you've got? There are times we have to do a lot of research into finding more. But there are also stories where everything is literally in front of you straight away. Like our new to range things that we do within BM is when we release new parts, every bit of information that we need is in front of us at that point. So it's quite an easy turnaround. Whereas there could be industry stories where you have to do some digging to really find the points and the angles that you want to see and the things that people want to read and listen to.
Do you have to check the part numbers that they're correct?
Yes.
That must be a hell of a job.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of reliance that we do the product photography in the business. So a lot of the time, these new to range parts, I have seen it myself. I'm seeing that new catalytic converter with the part number on. So if it's got to that point and the number's wrong, something's gone.
But it's easy to mistype, isn't it? When you're doing so many different numbers and you're looking at that same page. When you send them across, Tom, I am so in admiration. They're not. I don't think many journalists see them as an important part of the press releases that they receive. We see them as vital because it just, one is you've put so much effort into as a team into getting that part number right, and two, when the garages were looking for a part, they need that part number. It's vital for the garages.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes into that attention to detail, and that's obviously something that Joe's picked up and really sort of flying with. I'm going to fire compliments back at him now. But no, I think all those pieces about the part numbers are, like you said, they're vital, and it's vital that we get them right. And that comes into so many different aspects, like the product photography. We've got to make sure all those images are right, they're all named right, and then our sort of FTP server, where we have all the images stored, that's also got to be right. Because inevitably you're going to get someone fire back and go, I need this image of this part with this part number. And if we've got it wrong, we're just making life difficult for us.
Yeah.
So it's got to be right on sort of all aspects of that. And I think because we're dealing with it almost firsthand, we're getting the parts given to us, take a photo of, it's ingrained to us. And now there's times where Joe will turn around and go, oh, have we got this part number? And I'm like, I don't even know that part number. But obviously because he's written it and ingrained it in himself, he can fire out a part number, on a whim, if you like, test him.
Wow, can't wait to go for a pint with you, Joe.
Let's do it.
Ben is a charity for anyone who works or has ever worked in the automotive industry and their families. We're here to listen and support you through life's toughest challenges. Call our free confidential helpline on 08081 311 333 or visit ben.org.uk for online support with your health and wellbeing.
Right. Content ideas. Who's the genius? That went very quiet.
Nobody speak.
Is it a brainstorming meeting? Is it somebody comes to one or the other and go, I want to do this. What do you think? What's the process?
Yeah, I think I would say it's 50-50, definitely. The brainstorming in our marketing office, a lot of things are thrown at the wall. Not all of them stick, but when they do, we really seem to go with it. And then we'll sit and we'll just think about how can we make it work? How much is it going to cost? That's an important factor, by the way. And then,
well, yeah, because it's return on investment. If you invest, you've got to have a return.
Yeah, quite a lot of the time I have noticed that I will suggest things that are outlandish and possibly not financially viable. But Tom will let me know.
Rein it in.
Yeah,
yeah,
come on.
But I'm like you then, Joe. I come up with massive ideas, and Vicky then goes into the detail. And like you say, you have to adapt. But without that first big idea, some things may never happen, and they can be really successful.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of it comes from, again, there's a lot of market research into what else is out there at the minute. What can we not latch onto or copy, but what can we take, run with it and make better or bigger? And alongside that as well as identifying gaps in existing work. Obviously, with me being fairly new to the company, it's looking at what we've done before, what worked, what didn't work, and then what can we evolve and really go with.
How much, Tom, do you do that's trade, so for the garages, etc., and how much do you do for trends so that end users know who you are?
I think the easy answer, or the most obvious one, is it's a 50-50 split. I think because I come from like a consumer marketing background, obviously my niche is going, I know how to communicate with these garages. And again, I'm going to throw petrol head out there as well. I know the tone and how to speak to these garages that gets that messages across. And, I'm really fond of talking to mechanics and things because I sort of understand that language that they can give us that some people might not be able to. You're close to that line of sort of communication. But I think the split between trade and end user is relatively halved. I think at the minute we're leaning on trade a little bit more because we're looking into Europe So a lot of our sort of marketing efforts are going into like Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and so on. And we're seeing quite a big sort of uptake in that because as our parts expand into Europe. So we're doing really well in Europe. And I think we can attribute a lot of our brand awareness into the ads that we're running and the things that we're trying out. We're starting that top of funnel, that brand awareness that now will push down into conversion. The more parts we get over there and the more sort of legislation that we tap into and start understanding, because it is quite different, to the UK. So we've got to understand from a marketing perspective what message we want to portray in those different regions to make sure that that is clear for them, that we're also catering for their needs and not just the UK market.
Do you think, and this is not just about being cats, the whole industry needs to be less serious in its marketing, Joe? Do you think we need to open up to the likes of TikToks and the Snapchats and the Facegrams and the Instabooks, whatever they are? Do you think we need to be more personable, more human on them and not say, this is a part, this is what it does? Do the silly dances and things like that. Do you think that's a benefit to that?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's areas where we've already started trying to do this, not necessarily on your TikTok and your book face or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, personal content we found works so much better than talking about perhaps the product that we do sell. There are also elements of that because, of course, you have to talk about what you sell because that's what we're selling. But the people behind the business, the people who make it, the people who make decisions, the people who sell it, it seems to be where it's at. It's what people want to know.
And I understand that about the people behind. I think the key for the others need to understand, because we are trying to educate people, is that if that video gets of you doing something silly in the office gets 10,000 views, the next video you do is more likely to be seen by that 10,000 than it is by 300 or 400 because you're just very static in what you do, Tom.
Yeah, and I'm sort of latching onto that notion that I do think might be a bit controversial. The aftermarket is quite reserved in sort of that respect. And I think people are a little bit scared, if not sort of ill-informed, that some of these things will work for them and will get them the engagement that they need, So like you said, for example, one video might get 10,000 views or a piece of content might get, doesn't mean the next one's going to get anywhere near that necessarily, but that doesn't mean it's not worked. It's just mean that you've not optimized it enough or you've not put enough behind it that it's worked in the same sort of remit.
But it's got a better chance of being seen by more people if it's been seen by, the last one's been seen by thousands.
Yeah, because you're riding that wave and it's all about that horrible word algorithm that changes on an hourly basis. And you sort of got to understand you either jump on a trend or you create content that's sort of good enough that the algorithm will pick that up and you will get sort of kudos points from Instagram or Facebook because your stuff reaches the algorithm and hits people in the right way. I always sort of make the reference that you've got brands that are relatively, sort of sensible brands or should be sensible, like Duolingo, Aldi, Red Bull's a good one. And I don't think within the past couple of years I've ever seen Aldi sort of advertise its products on like its social media or anything like that, because all they're doing is trying to wind people up. Duolingo, for example, killed the owl off recently, which went absolutely berserk on social media. I think Red Bull is a very good sort of reference because Red Bull don't advertise their drink, they advertise the lifestyle that they want to sort of communicate with the people that have their product. And I think that the aftermarket sort of have to take that notion on a little bit more. I think we've got to communicate more with those technicians, those people that are using the products, and talk more their language rather than just being overly salesy all the time or overly corporate.
It's at that point you start to think, right, we need to split up our content here into what can we put on those platforms? What can we put on a LinkedIn perhaps? It has to be different elements that you involve within those pieces. And I think that's a process that we're definitely going through at the minute. We're looking at perhaps more the professional side of things and then let's say sillier stuff and then thinking that can go there or that'll be okay in this instance or this circumstance. I think it's important to keep that going but not get the wires crossed because I think that's when people see it as well, they've done that wrong or it doesn't hit where it should.
So what channels, technologies or approaches are you exploring for next year, Joe?
Tom, can I talk about him?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. We'll gatekeep.
No, obviously there's lots of stuff that we are looking into.
Terrible podcast guest, by the way.
Not me.
No, both of us.
Oh, I've got Mark Blinston outside the window shaking his head at me, that's why. But yeah, new technologies and stuff like Tom alluded to there. There's the AR, augmented reality, that kind of thing, 3D imaging, those kind of like really trying to just push certain elements of our brand a bit further and doing things that not only look nice, but you can see, oh, they've put some effort into that, to just go maybe above and beyond. Aside from that, obviously AI as well. There's a certain aspect of AI that could be used beneficial and be beneficial to our company. It's just finding that specific way in which we use it, which is something we're always looking into, always having a little play around with it to the right degree. But at some point, we're going to sit down and I think we need to go, let's really use this to push our business in the right way.
Are you on the big push of AI yourself, Joe, or is that a company push? Or
well, talking personally, I am, but I think it's using it correctly because I know you hear everywhere. There's it can be this, it can do this. You need to check this. I think if used in the correct way to aid or to guide, and then you take it alongside what you've got in your head already and what you're already thinking, there could be nothing wrong with it. I think it's just getting that across to everybody.
Does it excite you?
Excites and scares me. There's elements of it. You think, how did it know that, or how does it know that this is coming, or anything like that? But yeah, again, if used correctly, can be exciting.
Go on, Tom.
Yeah, AI is something that I'm looking into a hell of a lot more, and my sort of nerdy personality outside of work goes, I'm going to use AI for everything. And I think it's identifying that there's more out there than ChatGPT or Copilot or anything like that. There's so many more tools out there that you can utilize that will do jobs for you that you didn't even know could be done. And I'm not going to say I'm using AI for sort of all of my jobs, but it's certainly something that people have got to embrace rather than be scared of too much. I think if you embrace it, learn to use it, the only way AI will get better or will function for you better is by you using it. It's only reliant on your best prompt sort of thing in sort of short terms. I've recently started using one called Claude. There's one called Claude Code, and you can install that into your terminal on your Mac, and then you can start coding websites and things like that from there. And I'm looking at creating apps. For example, you can create an app on Claude, and you can directly sort of integrate that to the App Store and upload it pretty much all automatically. And it relies on a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of coding knowledge to understand what it's changing, what it's doing, and how to fix it if it does break. But ultimately, it's giving it your best prompt and understanding how you can make it work for you.
And how would a manufacturer use an app? I try and educate the end user, so they go to the garage, you ask the motor factors for your parts. Are you trying to educate the garages, so the technicians then recommend your parts? Or are you trying to educate the motor factors that they need to stock your parts?
I feel like you're trying to expose the whole idea. No, I think that there's different, I'm going to be very vague. There's different ways that we can utilize it and different ways that I see it being utilized. I think certainly for end users, if we can implement some sort of app, we can give them sort of a direct look into how the product's made, how to fit them, even using AR to scan a product. You will get a fitting guide from that. Mark did allude to it in his podcast about these sort of the implementation of AI to help people understand without having to jump to a customer service straight away, without having to read paper instructions or anything like that. And that's what I'm trying to move away from a little bit. So an app in that respect would help people fit parts. An app even just based on the website, for example, that could help with the purchasing of parts or the understanding of parts. I think you put anything in a mobile form, you're going to get so much more traction than on a desktop form, particularly because now we're seeing the market sort of drop down to a sort of younger demographic. Joe's come in, you're 24?
Correct.
There you go.
That'd have been awkward, wouldn't it, if you got it wrong?
Well, yeah.
So yeah, re-record that.
Could I just say every age and then we'll just edit that one in? So yeah, we've got younger people, sort of coming into the industry, and by no means, and I'm saying that I'm old. I'm only 3 years older than Joe, for example.
All right, you two, stop it.
But yeah, we've got to make it so the younger demographic that we're hoping to come in and that we hope we can inspire to come in can use these apps rather than relying on a desktop or a piece of paper.
When quality matters and emissions count, demand precision. BM Catalysts is Europe's leading manufacturer of aftermarket hot-end emissions products. From catalytic converters and OE-level components to expert technical training available on Garage Pro, BM delivers best-in-class manufacturing, rigorous performance, and full compliance. Need parts you can trust? Visit bmcats.com. Partner with BM. Drive profit, exceed expectations.
How do you plan for 2026? And is it a 1 year plan? Is it a 3 year plan? Is it a 5 year plan?
I think it can vary. If we're talking about 2026, we've obviously got Automechanica in Germany, and then we've got the UK Garage and Body Shop as well. So that differs a little bit to this current year in 2025 because we've got to go abroad. Effectively, we've got to take all of our stand, all of our equipment, and everyone have got to go to Frankfurt.
Just a message to Mark Blinston there. These two have got to go abroad.
Yeah, we definitely have to go. Yeah.
I'm there.
And then enjoy it. Loads of free food. So all that planning takes a little bit longer because obviously you've got to get everyone on the same flight, effectively in the same hotels. That takes a bit more.
What about the kit though? Because how do you get the kit? Is the drivers taking the kit across? You've got to
all the standard things. So we normally get a courier to take the larger sort of pieces across, and then we've got our wonderful maintenance guy. I'm sure he'll appreciate the shout out, Lindley, who sort of handles all the bits that you can. There you go. He'll love that. That you can put in his van and sort of drive over there with his build team. And we're very sort of grateful that we do have that build team with us in the company because, again, it's similar to having Joe in office writing our PR stuff for us sometimes because it's straight from the horse's mouth, effectively. So having Lindley there, it's if anything is amiss, he can fix it. If anything needs sorting, he will. So that takes a little bit of the planning away from me because I can just sort of trust him to do what he needs to do and do it really well. But in terms of sort of marketing and strategy and stuff, we do try and be roughly a year in front. So we've had things start of this year implemented ready for next year. And we do sort of understand that things do change. And in this industry, I think the more important than planning, Mark Blinston might hate me for saying that, more important than planning is sort of being reactive and identifying that 1 week a news story might come out that you didn't foresee. So then we've got to react to that on a PR basis and we've got to adjust our marketing a little bit. So we're either following that notion or commenting on that notion enough that we show we're aware of it.
And do you, as a team, go and, so say Mark Blinston comes in with a budget, do you go and push him a bit more, see if you can get a bit more, or do you work within that budget?
So I would say Mark is very good with things like that. As long as you can provide him with a reason why something will work and the benefit of doing something, then most of the time there is no, can't do that. There's no limit on things. But that becomes from me and Tom. That's real research into things and looking at not necessarily the cheapest option, but let's spend a bit more because we're going to get this benefit out of spending an extra amount. And it can really come, and it really comes into fruition when you see things. I know Automechanica in Birmingham, maybe not the best example because actually it was quite a cheap thing we did, but we had the spin the wheel on the stand. The amount of traction that came out of that rickety piece of wood that was falling apart every time some college student touched it.
What do you mean? It was a great piece of kit.
Yeah, sorry. Who built it?
The whole event.
It was already built, but I acquired it and convinced Tom and Mark to use it as a bit of a cheap look what I can bring to the company. Yeah.
Is he had his probation review yet, Tom? Or
it was after the spin the wheel, actually.
But brings up a really interesting point, Joe, because yes, it was cheap. Yes, it wasn't. But you had something to do on your stand. The one thing about shows is, yes, we go to find out the new products, the shiny stuff, but sometimes it's a day out of a garage for a mechanic that it's probably their own day out a year. So they want to do some fun stuff, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I think my point there was it's because it went so well, it's now pushed, let's say, Mark and Tom to go, let's do it again because it worked, but let's spend a bit more. Let's make it better. Let's constantly improve it. Let's not just sit on it and go, we'll just reel it out every year, every time we want to give someone some fun. But yeah, no, it does work. It's definitely a benefit. I mean, they were queuing down the aisles to get to the BM Cats stand.
Yeah.
And that can only be a good thing, really, can't it? Even if they're walking away with a fan or a bag, that then puts our brand across that whole exhibition hall. And everyone is seeing BM Catalyst, and then they're going, yeah, that's where they got this from, that's where they got that from. And then that's when we grab them and we talk about catalytic converters.
Sometimes the simpler, the better.
Yeah, of course. And I think we've been at events before where someone's had like a whack-a-mole next to us, for example. And by the end of it, I've got a banging migraine because all you can hear is thudding for 6 hours straight.
Think about the moles.
Well, yeah, poor moles. I kind of wish I was them, so I'd only get knocked once and then not have to hear it again. But yeah, I think, like you said, sometimes the more simple ideas are the ones that will equate best because you're not making it difficult for someone to come over to your stand and read all these instructions or understand all these sort of notions that you're giving him. The spin the wheel worked really well, and I know it's not a groundbreaking piece of kit. Spin the wheels have been around for however long, but it's one of them things you introduce it to the stand alongside, magicians or different incentives that you've got on stand. And like Joe said, you've got people queuing down the aisle, getting in people's way, and you're thinking, I went to the toilet, I've come back and I can't get back on my own stand now because there's 50 people around the corner of it. But yeah, those things work really well because it's the personality again. Me and Joe both sort of hosted the wheel. Joe did more so because I tried to escape when I could. But because he sort of hosted it, there was a lot of sort of notion afterwards of Joe did really well. We met him, and now he has become a name within sort of people that talk about BM because they know him as the guy that spanned the wheel, but I know him as the guy that brought that notion to the stand and did such a good job, and we sort of capitalised a lot from that, and it put us, I think, in the event more than
rather than on the periphery. Yeah,
exactly.
I think the thing is though, a crowd draws a crowd. Right, final question, gents. It's been a really fascinating chat about marketing and some different ideas. What's the most rewarding part of it for you, Joe?
If I'm going to be corporate about things...
No, don't be corporate, Joe, with marketing.
The most enjoyable thing for me, I think, is being able to see the work that you're doing get out there and be spoken about, be seen, be read. I mean, even just talking to yourself today, you've been talking about the press releases that we do, and for me, it's lovely. It's lovely to hear that. It's lovely that you've read it, you've enjoyed it, you've seen it, and you're pushing it. And for me, as someone who is relatively new, I can only take that and continue to push and do more things based off what I'm hearing from my peers.
Just try it.
Yeah.
One tip I can give, Joe, is just try it.
Yeah.
If it don't work, it don't work. Don't do it again. It's
not
the best things in. If you think about KFC, he took his recipe to hundreds of places. Walt Disney failed several times. Go and fail. Tom,
I think personally, the responsibility. I think our marketing department move the larger cogs in a way that we don't necessarily shout about. I think that there's almost an irony that marketing don't very often shout about marketing. Marketing shout about the things that they're implementing that are going to benefit sort of the wider company. So I think the most rewarding bit is seeing, similar to what Joe said, the things that we do making a difference and the cogs moving in a bigger way. And I think I can speak for us both in that respect when I say we're always chasing improvement, efficiency. You mentioned AI, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going, we've got that to work, now we're just going to leave it. We're going to go, we've got that to work, now how can we ramp that up a little bit more? Spin the wheel is a very basic example of that. That worked, did really well. I think we had the most sort of lead scans of the event, because of that spin the wheel and because of the personalities that were on our stand.
Yeah, there's no think we did 712.
There you go. He's got them. Everyone's going to expose them now and be like, no, I got 750.
They're lying.
We spoke about stats.
Yeah.
But any stats can be turned to your advantage. You've got to understand what they mean. And I think the big thing about that is leads.
Yeah.
You didn't have 712 people on your site. You didn't have 712 spin the wheel. You had 712 leads. I'm guessing it wasn't everybody that came on was a lead though.
No, I think there's an idea that you've got to be a bit more understanding that not everyone that's going to engage with you is going to be a lead that you want, or not that you want. That sounds horrible.
No, let's be honest. There's some that you don't want.
Yeah. There's some that you're going to get and you think, I can't really do anything with that. But it's also how you then direct that lead and how you identify you're a lead in some respect. You're either going to be part of our brand awareness, you're going to be part of our sort of sales lead, if you like, or you're going to be someone that we can even just communicate with and understand more points from, whether that be a decision maker, a technician, or anything alike. Or even, we had a lot of students on stand at Automotive. It's quite interesting because we can sort of engage with them being slightly younger, that we can sort of go, are you interested in coming into the industry? And I think ultimately that is a job that me and Joe are going to look into a little bit more, is bringing that sort of younger generation in and inviting them and saying the aftermarket of like the automotive or the automotive aftermarket, whichever way around, is not necessarily a space that is aging. It is certainly one that you can come into and take on board, and it's not always print. It's not always, looking at paperwork or anything like that. You can have a bit of fun with it, and you can really sort of grow your skill set with these different brands that are doing a little bit more. So there's other suppliers, around us that are doing a really good job of sort of modernising what they do. And I think we're trying to be part of that, if not already part of that. So where we're a bit more attractive to the younger sort of people that are studying the aftermarket or want to come and work in the aftermarket. I think the most rewarding part, going back to that,
I was going to say, Joe, do you think I let him get away with the corporate answer there?
Is that a corporate answer?
It got corporate towards the end.
The most rewarding part is working with Joe.
Oh,
there you go. That's not corporate.
I'll tell you what, that's not corporate.
There we go.
Well, Joe, have you got anything to say back? Or
I started the podcast by praising him, so it's fitting that he's ended it by praising me.
Gents, that's been absolutely fascinating, and I think we've given some insights into marketing there, and I believe that I need to take on board your opinions because you're the future of the industry. Unfortunately, this industry has been run by certain people that aren't forward thinking. That has to change. So keep moving forward, keep pushing, and keep driving this industry forward because it's you and the marketing people that will change it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
That's how difficult it is to run a marketing department in a manufacturer.
But they have fun doing it. They seem to enjoy it.
Well, it is, isn't it? Marketing is fun. And the more you enjoy it, the more that comes out in your creativity. And that's clear from Tom and Joe's conversation.
Yeah, they seem to work really well and bounce ideas off each other. And it's good that they've got Mark Blinston there that kind of gives them that free reign and freedom to try new things like AI and thinking outside the box.
One thing that we've been very fortunate is Mark's always backed us, and I think it's because we bring out new innovations, and I think they just embrace that because we're reaching new audiences. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's even more challenging. I mean, we don't have European or overseas branches. I think it's where they're trying to conquer Europe and where they've reached that new market. It's difficult because people have different senses of humor and different perspectives in different countries, don't they? So I think that's like an added challenge which they've done really well at BM.
Yeah, Europe's always obviously different. You've got the Frankfurt Automechanica, which is a totally different show to the UK one, but it's valuable in Germany and across Europe. The UK one is valuable in the UK. Different horses for different courses, isn't it? So that's all for this episode. A huge thank you to Tom and Joe from BM Cats.
And of course, a massive thank you to them again for being this episode's sponsor. BM Catalysts are the UK and Europe's leading manufacturer of catalytic converters, DPFs and front pipes. You can find out more at bmcats.com.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow us at Garage Talk Unwrapped on your favourite podcast platform and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode.
Next time, we'll be talking to Scott Greensmith from Click Mechanic, an online marketplace for trusted mechanics. See you then!